လုံးပဲမင်္ဂလာပါ DDM2 channel တော်လည်းကောင်း Facebook ဖေးရနေပြန်လဲပြီးမှကျွန်တော်အယုတ်ချင်းစီတောင်ကြိုဆိုပါတယ်ကျွန်တော်အတန်ကြာFacebook ပန်နေကျွန်တော်ပြုတ်နေခဲ့တယ်ဆိုတော့ဒီတော့လဲကျွန်တော်တောင်းပန်ပါတယ်ဘုရားသခင်ရဲ့အလိုတော်ရှိတယ်ဆိုရင်လည်းကျွန်တော်ဆက်လက်ပြီးမှာပေါ့နော်ဘုရားသခင်ဖွင့်ပြထားတဲ့နောက်ကပတော်ဒီ sharing ဝိမြတ်ချင်းတော်လည်းကောင်းကျွန်တော်ဒီစိတ်ရင်းမှာနိုင်ငံခြားတွေအသုံးပြုနေတဲ့ဆက်လက်နှစ်ပစ္စည်းတွေအကြောင်းတွေကိုသူရှင်းပြထားတဲ့အရာတော်လည်းကောင်းပြီးတော့ AI နဲ့သူတို့ရှင်းပြထားတဲ့ video တော်လည်းကောင်းကျွန်တော်ဒီ page အနေပြန်လဲပြီးမှဆိုပြန်လဲပြီးမှကြည့်ရှုခံစားရမှာဖြစ်ပါတယ်ဆိုတော့ channel YouTube channel လေးကျွန်တော်channel အနေနဲ့ကျွန်တော်တင်မှာဖြစ်ပါတယ်ဆိုတဲ့အကြောင်းလေးကျွန်တော်ပြောချင်ပါတယ်ဆိုတော့အချင်းစီတိုင်းဒီနေ့ကျွန်တော်ကြည့်ရှုရမယ်ခံစားရမယ့်အရာကတော့ရုရှားနိုင်ငံရဲ့အိမ်မက်ဆိုဖြစ်ပြီးမှယူကရိန်းရဲ့ကက်တင်ရှင်ဖြစ်နေတဲ့ drone အကြောင်းတွေပေါ့နော်ဒီ drone အကြောင်းတွေကို interview ပြုလုပ်ထားပြီးမှသူတို့ regarding ဒီဘယ်လိုမျိုးအသုံးပြုတယ်လဲဘယ်လိုမျိုးတည်ထွင်ခဲ့တယ်လဲဒီ drone တစ်ခုရဲ့ထံဘူးကဘယ်လိုလို့ရှိတယ်လဲဒီ drone ကိုသူတို့ဘယ်လိုမျိုးအရာတွေနဲ့နိုင်ရှင်ပြီးမှခိုင်နိုင်ပြီးမှတင်စားကြတယ်လဲဆိုတဲ့အကြောင်းအရာလေးကိုကျွန်တော်တို့ကြည့်ရှုခံစားရမှာဖြစ်ပါတယ်ဆိုတော့အယုတ်ချင်းစီတိုင်းကိုကြိုးဆိုပါတယ်
Because we didn't have anything, we have to come up with something just to survive. Since the beginning of full-scale invasion, people used pretty much everything. They used civilian cars to stop tanks. They used Molotov cocktails, and they used simple civilian drones.
In Ukraine, unmanned aerial vehicles, drones, have become a critical part of the country's defense.
Дрони внесли в 21 сторіччі новий виток в тактики ведення бойових дій, зокрема в стратегії. Тому що ми отримали можливість противника бачити в режимі онлайн тут і зараз, і відповідно оперативно наносити по ньому враження.
They have come to epitomize the David versus Goliath battle Ukraine has found itself in. A battle which has seen the country develop a host of cheap and disruptive technologies that has, until recently, kept Russia at bay.
A simple FPV drone is like AK-47 today. It's working, it's very cheap.
Then, in January 2024, Ukraine's military released remarkable footage, the sinking of a Russian warship by a naval drone, worth a tiny fraction of its target. As well as technological, drones also indicate an economic shift in how wars are now being fought.
When you have drone for $500 versus tank for $3 million, and drone wins, it just doesn't make sense to buy more tanks.
Ukraine's war has spawned an industry of startup defense companies and grassroots volunteers, many of whom are not just making a difference, but taking the fight to Russia itself.
We have been doing great work so far, hitting targets across the border, and I think we're going to continue to increase the scale and volume of those strikes.
On Ukraine's front line near Bakhmut, the Achilles drone squadron of the 92nd Assault Brigade are seeking out Russian positions just a few hundred meters away.
Нік, подивись, будь ласка, ось ворожий солдат зараз переміщається між позиціями, вже він зафіксований. Через деякий час по ньому буде нанесено ураження або артилерія, або зараз скоригуємо туди ударний FPV-дрон по їхніх позиціях.
The Achilles squadron's main task is aerial reconnaissance. Save a few software adjustments, they use a pretty standard FPV, a first-person view drone. Invented for hobbyists and racing, it has 4 propellers and a camera that streams live footage back to a pilot on the ground. These types of drone are readily available to buy in electronics stores all over the world for just a few $100s. Not long after Russia's full-scale invasion in 2022, Ukrainians started taping grenades and other explosives to FPVs, a cheap and lethal solution that has proven extremely effective in defending against Russian offensives. Flying at speeds of up to 100 miles per hour, on Ukraine's front line, they're now known as kamikazes.
Переміщень по лінії зіткнення становиться все менше і менше. Ворог намагається скриватися, використовувати
For Ukraine's defense, it's become a numbers game.
How we think about it? Not in drone price, but in one dead Russian per $1. One FPV can destroy the armor vehicle. If you talk about 2 or 3 drones, you can destroy the tank.
Alexei Babenko runs one of the more than 100 underground drone manufacturers in Ukraine. They're part of a complex network of volunteers and entrepreneurs, as well as soldiers who provide real-time feedback from the front. Technicians bolt and solder motors, cameras and motherboards. 3D printers make new frames. When a drone is completed, it's brought upstairs for a quick test. Then it's set aside for packaging and delivery to the front.
The kill chain from manufacture to killing can be less than 1 week.
That's despite issues around sourcing parts. Because so many of the world's commercial and civilian drones are made in China, Russia's ally, producers like Babenko still depend on some Chinese-made parts. While they manage to mostly bypass Beijing's embargo, shipping through other countries in Europe, they're finding ways to become more independent.
Year before now, it was all Chinese components. Now we have good Ukrainian frame that cost not so much. If you talk about propellers, in Ukraine it costs less than Chinese propellers, and I think it's better propellers than Chinese. Of course, Chinese make more electronics, so it's cheaper to make it in China. But I hope soon we will make it cheaper and cheaper.
Babenko let us film in his warehouse because he's about to move to a larger facility to keep up with demand. They currently make 6,000 kamikaze drones a month. President Zelensky has called on drone makers to churn out 1 million machines this year. Babenko is bullish.
Our country will produce more than 2 million or maybe up to 3 million drones for this year.
As the war has progressed, so have the drones. It's rare to see grenades with duct tape these days. Every week, Maxim Sheremet and his team from Dronania, a self-described UAV lab, travel to a secret location outside of Kyiv.
You must test all of this stuff. When you fly in a drone, you must understand, for example, low batteries, low altitude, wind velocity, enemy weapon, problems with some electronic stuff.
Now, the drones are full of advanced technology. As well as FPVs used as kamikazes, they test other types of drone, such as the Vampire. While slower, it is much bigger and capable of carrying a larger payload. Crucially, it's equipped with thermal imaging to see in the dark. Russian soldiers liken it to a mythical witch who eats children in the night.
Baba Yaga is the nightmare of Russia.
піхота в окопах знає, що ворогу так далі.
But with any change in warfare, the enemy usually adapts too. At Dronania's lab, volunteers dissect Russian drones recovered from the battlefield to better understand their technology. And they have to. Since drones became an integral part of this war, Russia now produces more than Ukraine. It also imports Iranian-developed Shahed models.
And we are losing in numbers. Russians start to manufacture a lot of kamikazes.
It's places like Dronania where Ukraine finds an edge in the drone war. From advanced wireless chips to reusable drones and extending flight range with new antenna technology.
For example, in Mavics in DJI drone, video transmitter is 100 milliwatt. This is 3,000 milliwatts. So the power of video transmitter of this drone is more than 10x powerful. We teach our military guy actually in this classroom how to be an UAV engineer, not how to fly, but how to create their own drone. I told to my students, our rifles is our brain.
They still find plenty of ways to innovate with whatever they can get their hands on too.
We use these batteries from the vape in this dropping mechanism. When you turn on the flashlight on a drone, the dropping system activate and the grenade are falling down.
A common theme among Ukraine's new class of arms dealers is that nobody ever thought they'd be making weapons. Software engineer Luba Shipovich left the US, where she ran a successful IT outsourcing company, to return to Ukraine. She co-founded Dignitas, one of the biggest volunteer organizations funding drone makers.
Development of IT sector, it was the fourth biggest sector in Ukraine before the full-scale invasion. So it's natural that all these engineers, software engineers, hardware engineers, some of them joined the army, others started to work for defense sector to come up with some solutions.
Francisco Serra Martins, an Australian venture capitalist, used to serve on the board of a non-profit that made drones delivering emergency supplies in Africa. Now, he makes drones that blow up Russian infrastructure.
If you have a patient that's been shot, you need to stop it at the source. And for us, it's providing medical aid is definitely an important goal, but we need to stop Russians from sending missiles and armor and infantry across the border.
Terminal Autonomy's drones are guided by a system similar to that of an American Tomahawk cruise missile. The weapons have been used to devastating effect in strikes on Russian oil refineries. But unlike a Tomahawk, which costs about $2 million, Terminal Autonomy's AQ400 Scythe sells for about $30,000. How? Not only are these drones powered by the type of chips you could find in a dishwasher, they're not demanding excessive profit margins.
Cyberlux is one of the largest loitering munition contracts from the US, if not the largest. They're selling a $500 drone for $50,000, whereas we sell that for 10% profit. It's basically cutting that fat off the top and then producing it on a massive scale. And that's what we're doing. We're not doing any broader innovation in other defense companies. We just price strategically quite differently.
What companies like Terminal Autonomy do reveal is how much the industry has evolved since Russia's invasion and how conflicts might look in the future.
There's no pilot. The long-range strategic effects basically fire and forget. They can visually identify targets and then navigate through a camera. There is no pilot, no crew. If they get shot down, economically it's a win because they're cheaper than anything the Russians can use to shoot it down. It's basically a new form of like attrition warfare where these systems can be deployed in massive volumes against strategic sites.
Raising the cost of Russia's invasion is part of Kyiv's strategy, but whether it can compete with a substantially better resourced Russian army employing similar tactics remains to be seen. Arguably more important, though, is keeping up the supply of drones. During the many months Republicans in the US Congress blocked military aid to Ukraine, UAVs played a crucial role in halting Russian advances and kept many more Ukrainians alive.
Час, коли ми очікували постачання артилерії від наших партнерів, FPV-дрони фактично вберегли фронт.
But drones, even with their technological advances, can only go so far in keeping Ukraine in this war. Though the Biden administration finally freed up substantial military aid, these are still desperate times for Ukraine's military.
အဆုံးထိကြည့်ရှုပြီးတော့အားလုံးကျေးဇူးတင်ပါတယ်